Welcome to the On Purpose Investor. My name is Eric, and this show is where intentionality meets investing in yourself and your finances.
And I'm Josh, and together we'll explore the strategies, insights, and stories combined with inspiration and motivation to help you live with purpose and make an impact.
Now, whether you're a seasoned investor or just getting started, join us each week as we dive deep into the world of intentional investing. Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and today we are interviewing Damion Lupo. Damion is a seasoned entrepreneur who has launched and grown over 70 companies from $0 to $100 million through a remarkable 25-year journey. In addition to being a prolific author with 12 published books, Damion is celebrated for his extraordinary achievements in building multiple companies from the ground up and revolutionizing the home and apartment construction industry through his pioneering work with FrameTech. Damion, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Outstanding. I enjoyed our conversation before the recording about out there in Arizona. I was telling Damion before we started that there's some sniffles. It is yellow season, pollen season, sneezy season in the Southeast. He says it's out there in Sedona as well.
Yeah, I don't think you can escape that unless maybe if you're in Saudi Arabia or in the sand dunes somewhere, but you know, the wind does blow it. So we all have to acknowledge it. Not everybody's got COVID-14 or 17 or 25. It's probably just a bunch of pollen from flowers, which that's part of the seasons. And I think that's, it's interesting that this happens and we tend to get mad about it, but I think it makes me think about the seasons of everything that we're doing. And oftentimes we get mad, or Eric, you've probably heard people say, I can't wait for X to happen. I wish I just want to get to that spot. And that's living our life based on an outcome versus the process. And people get screwed up because they're not falling in love with the process. They're actually focusing on that one moment in time. Like when you finish the race or you graduate high school, you think that's going to be the big event. And then the next day happens and you go, all right, now what? And so that's been a big, just to really think, starting off right there, it's such a big deal, whether it's an investment or it's your personal development work or whatever. It's falling in love with the process and getting those words, I can't wait until this thing happens, out of your brain, off of your tongue, so that you can really be present with your life. Otherwise, it's going to be like that Adam Sandler movie, Click, where you click and you're fast forwarding to your death. So I think that's been a big shift for me over the last 15 years. I think that's just something to think about for everybody.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom, Damion. That gave me a little bit of a chill and shiver. Thank you for sharing that. In your bio, I mentioned a lot of incredible things that you have done throughout your life, throughout your journey and your businesses that you've done. If you could just elaborate just a little bit about how you got started. Have you always been doing what you do? And exactly, to our listeners that don't understand it, what do you do?
It's funny because people will ask this kind of question in different forms. And how do we get here? I think a lot of things in life, like my journey, started off with frustration. And there was something that was irritating. And that back when I was 11, I was told that we were broke. We didn't really have any money. I remember the messaging from my parents was, here's how much money we make. Very fixed, very like scarcity minded. Here's our income. Our house payment is this much. It's $2,000 a month. This is like 40 years ago. It's $2,000 a month. And my take home is $2,500. I've got a car payment, blah, blah, blah. And so it was literally, hey, we don't have enough. And then we have to buy food. And so first off, I'm thinking, oh man, so I'm a problem. And it's very strange, like the damage that's done by parents with their words out of frustration, they don't have enough resources and they're stuck. And then the kids take this on and go, oh man, this is my fault somehow. So I probably should go see Dr. Freud, try to figure this out. But in the meantime, I wanted to play Nintendo games, and Nintendo cost money and we didn't have it. At least my parents didn't. So I started a business to solve the problem. And that's what entrepreneurs do. That's ultimately, we have this ability with our frontal lobe to create solutions for problems. And that was just the first problem I remember solving, where I started a business, hired my parents to drive me around so I could buy and sell Nintendo games. And then that just led to a whole bunch of other things. And ultimately, that's how I believe everybody should be either approaching business or investing. What problem are you solving? The bigger the problem, the bigger the impact, the bigger the reward, which ultimately is the side effect. But the thing that's really interesting is people don't tend to do that way. They go, I want to make money. I want to make a return on my money, or I want to go make money in a business. So they go do something that's been commoditized. They don't really create a new, unique solution, or they just say, okay, I just want to make money. And so I'm like, well, why don't you just go invest in strip clubs? Because that's where all the cash is flowing. And people don't really think about it. They're looking at the side effect versus the actual focal point, which is the problem that you're providing capital or time or energy to solve. That's, I think, why we're here. Whether you're solving problems teaching band in the high schools, you're solving a problem for that, because kids you want to tap into their creative genius, or you're going out and you're starting a new franchise system, or you're building housing, or whatever you're doing, you're solving problems. The more we get away from that, the more we focus on getting, which is getting the money, then it's very easy to see people get screwed up, and they go, why is this not working? Typically because people lose heart because there's no mission. There's no mission for a problem they're solving. And it's very easy to get either drained or bored if there's not a mission. You're like, oh, it's getting hard, I'll go do something else. That's why people are chasing their next stream on Facebook or Instagram, like whatever's shiny, that they want to go after that. Everybody that's doing something significant has focused on something that's deeply meaningful. There's some passion, there's heart, and there's a purpose behind it. Not necessarily they're following their love. Because look, if we just did what we loved, we'd be a bunch of fat, lazy, nothing happening, Twinkie eating, loathing type of people. We need to find the thing that matters, why we're here, and then go from there. And that's where the mission starts.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. And thank you for sharing that. There were so many things that came to my mind. The first thing was at the very end of what you were saying is it'd just be like Wall-E, that animation film would be just floating around fat and can't walk and all that. They lacked purpose. They lacked why they're here on earth. And the reason my wife and I came up with the On-Purpose Investor was to create this sense of purpose, to create this sense of hyper intentionality, which is a made up word. I'm going to submit it to Webster later and see if he'll adopt it. But to give people that reason why they're here. There are so many people I come in contact with that are so unsure. They say, hey, I wanted to be a dentist, so I'm a dentist. Do you really love being a dentist? It pays the bills. There's so much more to life than that. Why not use the income from your dentistry to build the life you really want? And that's what I try to train people to do, is to transform money earned into wealth growth and to generational wealth growth, so that they can transform active income into passive income, so that they can start living the life that they've really always wanted. But the problem is people don't know what they actually want. And that's the biggest thing I've ever seen in most people, is that they don't really know what they want. So I love having you on our podcast today, because I feel like you can give our listeners a better understanding of how to get what they really want out of life, especially in their investments. So can you talk briefly into what it is you do to provide financial clarity to those that are looking to invest their money? There might be school teachers listening, or nurses or doctors listening, that have some money but don't really know what to do with it. What is safe? What is good? What is productive? What's going to really build generational wealth?
Yeah, this is how EQRP was born. The retirement account company that I founded almost a decade ago was really focused on giving people the control over their future, their vision. So inside of EQRP, we built something called the MAP, the Millionaire Action Plan. And this is where, to your point about clarity and seeing it, the question is, what does your life look like? I think most people are so busy doing life, they don't actually think about what they're going towards. And there's an old saying that if you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. And so people just go along and they put a lot of energy. They wake up in the morning, they go to sleep at night, and then they wake up and it's 20 or 30 or 40 years and they go, what just happened? And on the other hand, when you start getting really clear, and really, what does it take? It takes questions asking you, because I think that you, as Tony Robbins said in the Netflix special, you are your own guru. Like, you know deeply what matters to you. And there's a program I did years ago called Lifebook, where you break your life into these 12 different pieces and you spend 4 days. I did a physical process where I was sitting in a place in Chicago in this room, writing about my life in these 12 different categories, from your spiritual life to your intellectual life, to your family, your love life, your financial life, all these pieces, thinking about it. And that's the hardest work anybody's ever going to do, thinking about their life.
Yeah.
Now, I tend to spend a lot of time doing that, which is really interesting and fun. For a lot of people, I think it's terrifying because they have absolutely no idea where to go with it. And they get scared about all the programming that they had from their childhood or their experiences in adult life, where they've had reinforced negatives happening. So they think that's just going to be more of that, or they're just living in fear. So what we do at EQRP is give people a space where, one, they get control of their retirement money, their IRAs, 401ks, so they can do things with it. And then there's a community surrounding them, both externally with all the other people, the thousands of people that are in this space with us, and our internal team that takes people on a journey, and we help them see that vision. And then we give them permission by delivering and sharing confidence in the outcome. Because what happens, Eric, is they'll say, yeah, that sounds cool, but they don't believe it's possible. But if they can trust somebody else that's guiding them and borrow the confidence, then all of a sudden it's, oh, if you're sure, then I guess I'm sure. And then they take action. Otherwise, people don't take action because we don't like losing. We don't like failing. In fact, we're told that we're a terrible person because our childhood, if you fail, you're bad, you flunk. That's crazy, Eric. 50% and you're a failure. Not just you failed, but you're a failure. You get thrown out of school. So the whole point of building this was that most people end up with their house, Social Security, and a retirement account, and that's their financial means. And if they don't get you're not going to eat your house, and your Social Security is going to pay for a dozen eggs and maybe a half dozen, depending on inflation.
Yeah.
And then you've got your retirement account. And for most people, they're saying, okay, I need to figure this out. And the core premise behind EQRP is self-responsibility. It's owning your space, not just for controlling your investments. Anybody can say, okay, I want to go invest in something. It's really understanding not only that it's your responsibility, but that you have to own it. I see more people saying, I've got my money, but I'm freaked out, so I need my financial advisor. Like, I need mommy, daddy to do the thing because they're too busy. And what that says to me is that they're not willing to own it, because when it doesn't work the way they want it to, then they can blame somebody. If you take responsibility and you lose money or you make a mistake, guess whose fault it is? It's yours. So our psychology ends up derailing us with the biggest potential, which is when we take responsibility for that. And the beauty here is that you've taken responsibility inside of an ecosystem, so we do it with you. It's not about you doing it on your own, and you're just like a lot of companies will say, hey, here, you have control of your retirement money, good luck, have fun. And then it's terrifying. And the other side, vast majority of people have a financial advisor, which is basically an insurance or stock salesperson. They just tell you're too stupid to monitor and manage your own money. So they tell you to keep it with them until you're dead. And then they'll ask your kids to keep it with them. That's like the whole scam of Wall Street. And then there's an organization like EQRP where we do it with you. So you're not alone, you're also in charge. And that is the big difference about what we're all about. It's empowering people and then sitting next to them, but they're driving. And that's a completely different ballgame for vast majority of the entire population.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I want to say to those that might wonder, like, how do you even get into a position to start participating in something like EQRP? So I want to break down what QRP is, a qualified retirement plan, right? And I've watched so many videos on this. I have a financial wizard of a wife that tells me I'm stupid when I say, hey, I learned this about a 403B. She's like, actually, and I'm like, fair enough. I'll just let you do that. As a teacher, I did have a 403B. I also had a teacher retirement system thing, which was the 403B. I just recently have exited the military and had a thrift savings plan in there. And that there was some Roth in there. There was some other things. There was some 401k stuff. When you exit a workforce, or even if you shift jobs or something, sometimes you can take your earnings in these retirement plans and either put it into another QRP, or you can put it into something that you control, right? What does the E stand for in EQRP?
So the E is enhanced. It's a different type of qualified plan. It falls under the 401k guidelines. And what we did is we built something unique. So it has different layers of protection and amenity. You can, if you end up where you're starting a small business or big business and you have employees, it works. It also allows you to control and take possession of assets. So typically, that's a very anti-Wall Street philosophy. Taking control of your assets means Wall Street's not getting fees. And they like fees. They like to charge you 1 or 2 or 3 or 4% or whatever it is on your fees until death do you not really part, because like I said, it goes to your kids. So the fees are meant to be indefinite. And there's a reason why financial advisors and the hedge fund managers and things, typically they want to get to their billion or 10 billion in assets. So they have all this control and wealth and they're levering off of you. So basically it's the matrix. You're being fed on, or they're feeding on you. And so what we're doing is we're shifting that to where you're using the tax code and you have control of your assets. You can still do all the same stuff if you want to. You can do the stocks, the mutual funds, the bonds. This just gives you the ability to invest in all the other things, whether it's Bitcoin or apartments or developments, things like FrameTech that we have here in Arizona. It's all the different things that are out there that you don't even realize you can do, because why in the world would Wall Street ever tell you you can do these things? Because you take your money out of their coffers and they'd lose their 1 or 2 or 3%. Eric, have you ever seen somebody, financial advisor, being told that the money is going to go away? They throw a hissy fit like they're 5 years old. You understand young children, and you understand that if you don't give them what they want, sometimes they go a little crazy. That's what financial advisors do. They treat you great when you're giving them a lot of candy, which is the fees. But as soon as you take the cotton candy away, they lose their freaking minds and they're screaming and yelling and they treat you like dog shit. And I'm saying that broadly, not all of them, but we've seen In my career, I've seen dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of financial advisors absolutely throw a fit and treat people people thought these advisors were their friends. And it turns out the advisor was friends with the fees, but they weren't really friends with the people. It was more of a cloak. It was like a costume. It was like an illusion. And unfortunately, that's just prevalent in the industry because people look at other people mostly as a fee source, not really as their friends. And I think people need to wake up to that.
Oh, absolutely. When we first started learning about like self-directed IRAs, SD 401ks, or solo Ks, some people call, it was like, which one is more volatile? Things that Warren Buffett, he invests in things that he knows and trusts. So why wouldn't we all do the same thing and take advice from one of the most successful men in investing? So when we started investing in real estate, we said, we have all this retirement money. We're both leaving our jobs. Let's direct it ourselves. Let's stop trusting that the stock market is going to do what it's, built to do. And we all know that it's unpredictable. And people say housing is unpredictable, or silver and gold is unpredictable, or crypto is unpredictable. It's only unpredictable in the sense of your understanding of the product. And for the majority of people, they don't understand Wall Street. The majority of people don't understand how stocks are traded, or how they're valuated, or how quickly it can go down 100%, 150, 200%. And then they say, well, the money's made in the rebound. I was looking at a chart this morning that the housing crisis of 2008 dropped 170-ish% and then took almost 12 years to get back. And so you look at people that were nearing retirement in 2008, and they just lost almost all of what they had in there. They don't have another 12 years to wait on it to rebound. So what do you say to that?
I say that there's a difference between a dangerous investment and a dangerous investor. I say that most people are blaming the wrong thing. They should be looking in the mirror and saying, okay, the problem isn't the crypto. The problem isn't real estate. The problem is, am I an investor or am I a speculator? Am I trying to make a quick buck, or am I actually solving a problem? And if people were really honest, they would say, oh, I was just trying to make money instead of solving a problem. For example, if you look at crypto, who are the people that are making the most money? Not the ones that are trading off of James Altucher's system of flipping cryptos. What they're doing is they're investing in a solution to fix a broken problem, which is the financial system. They're investing in solutions. They're called hodlers. And whether you like crypto or not, the reality is this is a very big shift in our financial system. And so it's not the actual crypto. It's when you go chase a meme coin, which is one of these things that gets made up out of thin air, and I'm going to make 10,000% in 10 minutes. You are a speculator. And unfortunately, that's where people find themselves in real estate. I'm going to go flip a house because I saw Joanna and Chip in Waco, and they did it, and it's very easy. You go and do a development, you realize you don't have a team that's actually done this. All the different things that we do, it's not the investment. It's you. And I'm talking about Eric, I'm talking about Damion, I'm talking about the people listening. So the question is, what do you do with that? You've got to get your psychology right. And people go, yeah, but what's a good investment? I'm like, it doesn't matter. You show me a great investment with somebody that doesn't have their psychology right, and I'm going to show you a way to lose money. You show me a crappy one, and I'll show you how to turn chicken shit into chicken salad. And it's because the people make the difference. And so your psychology and your mission and really knowing yourself is where you have to start. That's part of the map process that we do with people. It's not just their vision of their life, but who are you and what matters to you? Like I mentioned this sort of tongue in cheek, but the reality is you can look at a lot of different things out there and you can say, look, this strip club makes cash flow, and they do. I've looked at the business models. They make, not just figuratively, but like literally, but there's all this cash flow. Are you the type of person that wants to invest in that? Are you solving a problem, or are you just trying to get the cash? You could go deal drugs. There's a lot of different things you can do. And so you have to start with yourself. And that's where people they don't want to do that work, because it's work. It's work
hard.
is like a 4-letter word. And we've seen books like Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Work Week, and people go, yeah, that's what I want. I'm like, okay, great. So how are you going to compete in the world in business and investing with the person that works 10 hours? You're going to get crushed because they have the same resources. So you've got to be saying that I'm just not going to work, especially on yourself, is a 100% certain formula for poverty. And that's where I see most people. They're abdicating responsibility. And the counterpunch to that is saying, it's my life, it's my fault. Larry Wingett has a great book called Your Life is Your Own Damn Fault. Shut up, stop whining, get a life. Like these, I love his stuff because it's so accurate. He is saying that you are the problem and you are the solution. And so instead of just saying you're owed something, I guess that's what they say in California, to the you are everything center of the universe culture. It's really about you are the problem and the solution. So you're the center and the reason and the possibility for the potential that lies on the other side of your delusion. So that's the big shift. And unfortunately, it's not another course. It's not another investment. It's not a thing. It's you. And people are like, oh God, what do I do with that? No, let me just go let me go find the thing that's going to give me 18%. That's not the solution. You got to start with yourself.
And I've had so many students over the past 4 or 5 years that have tried to figure out what I did that was special that made my wife and I successful in building a 7-figure investment business in 4 years. That's we invested in ourselves. We invested in figuring out, why the hell are we on earth? What's the answer? What's the answer to life? It's not a number. It's for you to understand for yourself. Your answer is different than mine. And any listener answers out there is going to be different than anyone else's. And the biggest thing I have to say to any of my students is, you are in your way. And they're like, how do I fix that? I say, well, get out of your way. They're like, how do I get out of my way? Stop doing the things that keep getting in your way. And they don't seem to really grasp it until about 6 or 7 times of me asking them, why do you think you're here? Why do you think God put you on this earth? Why do you think you were put here with special skills and tools? And then we uncover it and we discover it. And then they start living in their purpose. And when people start living in their purpose, they can do incredible things, and they can leave lasting impressions on those around them, their loved ones, their friends, their family, their community. It's a beautiful thing when people wake up, because I don't know the percentage. It's probably 99% people sleepwalk their entire life and have no clue what they're doing. And people just need to wake up. And I thought about writing a book that says, wake the hell up, and just trying to get people to open their eyes, because we all walk around sleepwalking.
There's a saying that most people are tiptoeing safely to death's door and just trying to arrive safely. It's true. We don't want to take risks. We don't want to acknowledge what you just said. There's what I find with most people is that there's a lack of commitment to their dreams, and they would rather just, and sadly, this is like people that are in abusive relationships. They have a known. If I'm in a relationship and it's you and your spouse, you and your boyfriend, girlfriend, you and your money that's beating you up, at least it's predictable. At least that job, I can go there and I've got a roof over my head. So we go into this very primal thinking and this feeling of survival, and at least I'm not starving to death. And unfortunately, we're willing to accept that and basically become beaten dogs instead of saying, all right, I'm committed to this potential. I'm committed. And what we're doing is we're heading towards the end of our life where there's a huge amount of regret. I saw this in spades about 10 years ago. I was with my dad a few weeks before he passed away, and we were sitting down, and he looked at me and he said, there were so many things that I wanted to do. And he knew that he only had weeks until he was going to pass away. He ran out of time. And it was because he was in an abusive relationship with his own psychology. He was allowing it to beat him down. He didn't do the things he wanted to do. He didn't travel to the places he wanted to go. He didn't spend the time with people that he really wanted to spend time with. If he was really honest about it, he was scared that he didn't have the resources. He was scared that it really came down to his relationship with money and just in his comfort. He didn't want to go out of comfort. He'd rather go and this isn't me beating up on my dad. I love him. But I see this consistently with people. They continue to stay with bad spouses. They stay with bad jobs. They invest in things because they don't want to step outside of that comfort. And the known is way less scary, even if it hurts, than the unknown. People go, that thing in the woods might eat me. I can tell you, Eric, that there's only 2 places really that you're going to be eaten. And I've been to both. I grew up in Alaska, and I had to dodge polar bears in one of my last jobs up there, because when I took out the trash, polar bears are outside. And if they see you, they will eat you because you're moving. So that was one. And if you're in Africa, half of everything out there will eat you, whether it's a hippo or a lion, if you cross in front of them. If you're not in Alaska or Africa, you're probably not going to be eaten by something, but everybody acts as if they're going to be eaten. Oh my gosh, my friends will judge me. Oh my gosh, I might lose business. And there's all this fear. Well, it's because we've gotten soft. We've got to get more committed to ourselves. Like why are we here? To your point, why did God put us here? He put us here for a purpose, and it was not to play it safe. That is insane. Playing it safe. It's the story of the talents in the Bible. Like you weren't given something to just hide it, which is you hiding your potential behind the safety and security of your really boring, lame life. What God wants you to do is to go out there and be a good steward of your talents, your money, your resources, your freaking time. And I just don't see very many people doing that. I see people getting very lazy. I see people they say, I'm tired. I'm like, all right, you know what? We all have the same 168 hours, and you're choosing to do different things. Are you choosing to invest in your body, your spirit, your mind, your friends, your relationships? My friend Chris Martinson talks about that in his book, Prosper. and all the different capital we have. It's not just cash. It's the social capital. It's your physical capital. It's all these different things. We have to start focusing on that, or we're going to live a life of quiet desperation. And unfortunately, it'll end up with regret, which is hell on earth, to get to the end and say, damn, I wish I would have.
Mm. And I'm on a mission to help people to avoid that, whether it's through the podcast or whatever it is. A quick interaction at the airport. My goal is to help people discover a life where they can be on their deathbed. They can be in the last moments of their life and say, I did it on purpose. I did it with intention. And maybe I didn't achieve these goals I set out for, but damn if I didn't try. Damn if I didn't pass it on to those around me, whether it's children or my community or friends, of my pursuit of chasing something bigger than myself. And I just thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on all of that. It's motivating, it's inspiring, and just reinforces that the mission I'm on is worthwhile and I'll stay on it. So I appreciate that. Damion, so your work with EQRP has been transformative in the retirement industry. Could you explain the core principles behind the system and how it benefits individuals?
It really does go back to this idea of self-responsibility. You own your life, you own your money, you own your future. And it's getting clear on not only having the tool, but on understanding clearly why you're using the tool and what you're. So people are looking at investments and they say, oh, this makes a certain return, or I'm going to get my money is going to double. Or and the question is that good or bad? And they go, it's good. And I say, how do you know? And they're like, it's a good number. And so here's one of the examples. We teach people the difference between capital growth and cash flow. And a lot of people get all excited because Robert Kiyosaki, or they've heard a lot of people talking about cash flow. It's great. Cash flow doesn't mean crap if you've got $10,000 and you're making 15 or 20% on it. It's not going to change your life. It's not going to create financial freedom. And people go, well, yeah, cash flow is money. It's mailbox money. Yeah, but if it's 150, or say it's 1,500, let's say it's 20%, you're making $2,000 a year. What changes in your life? Nothing. So what you have to do is we teach this. We give people wherever they're at. We say, okay, what's the outcome? It's like going to the moon. The very end, last thing is, here's what's going to happen. And then there are steps before it back into it. So the first thing you have to do is you have to get to a place where you've knocked out literally all of your debt. And this is not Dave Ramsey. This is literally just saying, okay, take the debt. Going back to the Bible, which is, I don't do this very often, but it doesn't say go and get a whole bunch of debt. That's not what it says. And there's core principles. Debt is a double-edged sword. So first off, you get this debt out of your life, and then you build up this investing, this pool, if you will, this capital growth, this phase, and then you go towards the cash flow. And people get this kind of screwed up. They go, wow, I like cash flow. Or they say capital growth forever, and they never actually get to cash flow. And so they have this big pile of money in the stock market. And so instead, what happens inside the EQRP, the principle is we teach you those phases. We take you through those phases. We help you understand how you're going to build up your capital, how you're going to be debt-free, and then how you're going to have the six-figure income. And people go, that's great. The only problem is most people want to do that in 6 minutes or 6 months. And the reality is it's going to take years. Is it going to take 20? No. But is it going to take 5 to 10? Yes. For most people, this is a process they can do if they're coached and guided and they have the framework and the tool, which the EQRP is the best tool in America for doing this. There is no other tool. It's not life insurance. It's not an IRA. It's not a 401k. This is the best tool and the best platform, the best system, because not only does it give you control and give you all the options, but it actually gives you the people and the context and the framework to be able to make the whole thing work, instead of saying, okay, look, you can go make money and you can flip an apartment. Cool. Then what? And that's it's not holistic. Most everything I've seen out there it's a deal, it's a return, but it's not a holistic system based on a vision and then the support inside of it. That's why it was built. That's why it's still in business. That's why we do what we do.
Outstanding. And I know my wife knows all about EQRP. So my takeaway from this phone call today is to go pick my wife's brain and say, hey, tell me more about EQRP, because we have all types of systems that we utilize to manage our wealth. And I'd be very interested to learning a little bit more about EQRP and figuring out what portion of what we're doing should be in there. And someone like yourself would say all, maybe, or half or something like that. So
there's something it's interesting, because people go, is that risky? And I say, we go back to, are you risky? Because EQRP is like your vehicle. What you put in the vehicle is up to you. And so when somebody says, should I put all of it? I'm like, here, EQRP is based on the tax code. So should you put everything into anything that you can't totally control? No, because even though you have control of your assets, you don't control the tax code. So you want a big chunk. The reason that I say it's usually a lot or most of what people have is because you can go to a place where you have zero taxes forever. It's called the Roth. The Roth part of an EQRP allows you to be tax-free forever. So if you can do that, beats everything. It beats life insurance, it beats the stock market, it beats brokerage accounts, it beats all these different things. So for example, our project in Arizona that we've been building the last couple of years, FrameTech, people are investing, and the expectation is that they're going to make 4 or 5 times their money, and they're going to have incredible cash flow when this manufacturing plant comes online this year. So there's this opportunity there. And a lot of people are using their Roth EQRP to invest in this so that when they have these incredible returns, they're not paying taxes on anything. And it's part of a holistic plan. If somebody says this is the answer for you, it might be. And for you and your wife, Eric, it could be an incredibly useful thing, or it could be a complete disaster because you've got something that's better because it's more nichey. So it's really about having the conversation and asking questions. I can't tell anybody that this is the only thing and the one thing. I'm just saying it's an incredible option that should be looked at. And that's why I wrote a book about it. So people could go dig into it. They can read about it and understand it in plain English. Here's what your options are if you want to tackle them. And so I think that's really what it comes down to. It's fun to be able to have an investment like we do with FrameTech, where we're disrupting the construction industry, and be able to give people an opportunity to invest their money and then not have to give any of those profits to the government after we completely help to solve the housing crisis, all these missing houses, and like the things that we're doing. So this is where everything marries together. It's very missional. It's not just, hey, we're going to go flip a house or we're going to flip an apartment. We're literally doing something. We're building something, and we're changing lives, and we're doing it not at the cost to the environment, because we're effectively going to be LEEDs gold or platinum, and there's almost no energy being used. We have almost no waste in this thing. Like I get excited. I start rambling about all the cool factors here. When you can invest in something that builds framing for houses, which is what FrameTech does, and it has almost no waste, and then you compare that to a typical house or an apartment where you see dumpster after dumpster of trees that are going to a landfill, and we have virtually none because of our patented technology, people go, this is something that I can get behind. And we had 100 people out here about a week and a half ago. Our investors came out and they saw this, and I have never seen more people more excited seeing what they had put their money, which is the fuel for FrameTech. They saw this and they're like, I am so happy I get to be a part of this mission and with this team. And so when you start thinking about investing that way and participating in life that way, it's very different than saying, what's the return? If it's just the return, you're probably going to lose your money.
Yeah, every time I've seen that. People say, I'm going to go find a greener pasture in this investment space or that one. But if you find one that you believe in and you trust in, water it. Grass will grow. Fertilize it. Throw some crap on it.
Literally.
That grass will grow.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you brought up FrameTech. I want to learn a little bit more about that. And I definitely want the listeners to learn a little bit more about that. Can you share some real world projects where FrameTech's methods significantly reduce the construction time and waste, and what benefits have been realized?
So basically what FrameTech is, it's a vertically integrated framing company. So you come to us with the house designs you have. You designed a house with an architect, or you're a builder and you're building 100 houses. You bring those plans in 2 weeks. We take those plans, convert them to our CAD system, and then we build all the bones, the floors, the walls, the roof trusses. We build them in our factory, and then we take them out and we assemble them. So this is all to spec. This is not like a pre-made fabricated house that's a manufactured house. This is literally your design, and then we put it on site. Instead of that framing process normally taking about 2 to 3 months, it takes us 2 weeks to do the whole thing. An apartment that normally takes, say, 100 units, that takes 10 months to frame, we'll do it in 2. So we've cut down the process by about 80%. 75 to 80% is the reduction in time. You can imagine how big of a deal that is. That's huge for the cost of all that time and the capital that's sitting there idle. The other thing that we're doing is that because of our technology, our patented technology with the finger joining system, we're able to use almost all of the wood. Other than corner cuts, we have virtually no waste. So typically, if you have an 8-foot wall or an 8.5-foot wall or something, you're going to have a 10-foot stud. You're going to cut off a foot or 2 of that, and then you're going to throw it away. We don't do that because our continuous board processing system, all our boards are stuck together using the finger joiner. This is our IP that's patented, that was approved last fall in 2023. So we have this unique process that allows us to have almost no waste, which leads to LEEDs gold platinum certification that's coming. And a very happy environment. We're not filling up landfills full of wood. We also have almost no energy being consumed because we're almost entirely solar. And then you have these incredible opportunities for people in rural communities, because our plants are not in big cities. They're outside of the cities. So people can live in rural communities. So there's all these jobs for people that don't want to live in a concrete jungle. And so when you think about this as an investment, FrameTech is solving a giant problem, which is we can't get enough houses built. And whether or not you love immigration or you hate immigration or you just are whatever, reality is we had a problem of 4, 5, 6 million units that were missing in the last couple of years. That problem has gotten way bigger with all these more people that are in the United States. So we just have the problem continues. And so we're part of the solution. And we had this idea a couple of years ago, and we decided to take this idea and build it. And so people said, we shared it with our community, and people came together and they put up tens of millions of dollars to help build this thing. And so now we're coming to life. You can actually see all about it if you want to go to frametech.com. Dig into it, check it out, because it's a great example of what's possible when you bring everything together. You align people, philosophy, mission, a problem that you're going to solve, and then the capital, and puts it all together. And we were talking offline about your project you're involved with. And I can tell you that the reason that this works is because everything's aligned and you have the best team in the world. These people are truly ninjas. They're world-class. When our investors came out and met with them, there wasn't a single person that didn't walk away that wasn't blown away with the level of intelligence, execution, how thoughtful they were. These guys, they bleed sawdust, and they understand integrity, and there's this relentlessness that Tim Grover would be very happy about. He wrote the book Relentless.
I love that book.
Absolutely. So that's what came together. And what's really wild, man, is people will often say, gosh, this came out of nowhere. 2 years ago, this was a napkin, and you guys are coming online and we're producing revenue already, which, I mean, in less than 2 years, producing revenue on a 111,000 square foot manufacturing facility. So that's unprecedented. I've never heard of that happening before in history. That's how wild this is. And I go, yeah, that's when everything came together. And they say, it seems like an overnight success. And I go, yeah, except all of us have 20, 30, 40, 50 years of doing things that got us to the place where we could do something like that in 2 years. So it wasn't 2 years. It was, whether it's Justin Bieber or Warren Buffett, nothing happens overnight. It's the decades before, the 2 nights or the night that it all happened. And I think that's one of the things that people have to really understand, that when you're building an incredible orchard, it doesn't start off with a 20-foot tall tree. It starts off with a seed and a lot of time and a lot of seasons. And when you're willing to go through that process, you can build something that looks like a miracle. And really what it was, patience and focus and nurturing.
Yeah, there's so many things that came to mind while you were explaining all that. First of all, your company is built with just a bunch of cleaners. And it seems like if no one knows Tim Grover's book, Relentless, go read the book. You'll understand that you want a team of cleaners on board, and closers. There's cleaners and closers, and there's a place for everyone, right? If you haven't read the book Relentless, you need to go check that out. Tim Grover did a great job. He was a personal trainer for some of the world's best athletes, to include Kobe Bryant. And his philosophy on how he transformed already talented people into just extraordinarily talented people. And everyone listening to this podcast, everyone in this world has the possibility of being extraordinary. The first thing they have to do is believe that they are. And congratulations on the patent, because that is not a small feat.
That was brutal, actually. It's really hard.
I've watched enough Shark Tank to understand that that is an almost impossible task. But be relentless about it and get people to believe in what you believe in. So I appreciate you sharing that. So I am super excited to go dive into FrameTech and learning more about that. I've been approached with so many things like FrameTech. I have 3D printed housing. I need you to invest. Or I have cinder block things going on and I want you to invest. There's a lot of things out there that people are doing the best they can to come up with solutions for affordable housing and more housing. And my wife and I are on a mission to help our local community in affordable and more housing. So we do some interesting things like rent houses out by the room and stuff like that. That solves our local issue, but in the terms of building more and doing it, not just building more, but doing it in a fast-paced method where you're not sacrificing the integrity of the structure or abusing people when taking advantage of people and communities. I think what you've built is incredible. And what an amazing thing. I'm so blessed to have you here on the podcast and talking to you about it. So thank you for sharing that.
I'm glad to do it. It's fun. Our plans are for a rollout, and there's multiple plants: Texas, the Carolinas, Tennessee, and Florida. So you're literally going to be surrounded. You'll have the rollout plan is for 3 plants over the next decade that would actually surround you. You'd be like right in the middle of Tennessee, the Carolinas, and Florida. So there's gonna be a lot of options. The reality is this solves a huge problem. And when people go, what business should I be in? I'm like, well, just look around. There's problems in every direction, and just pick one of them and become obsessed about it. Another book that I loved was Boba, Grant Cardone's Be Obsessed or Be Average. You got to find something that you are just obsessed about. I hear people oftentimes say, it's Friday night and you don't have any balance and you're working or you're studying. I mean, I tend to spend a lot of nights studying and thinking, and it's because there's an obsession around something that really matters. Like for me, it's play, it's fun. And it doesn't mean that other things aren't fun. Like I love hiking, and that has very little to do with going and building a truss manufacturing plant, but it's me connecting with God. And so it all works together, but there are seasons. And for most people, the season that we need to be in is the time where we're planting and we're tilling and we're nurturing something, not the time where we're sitting back. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people have decided that America is about chilling out. And maybe that's why we have such a drinking culture all over the country, where people just want to hang out and drink every day. And that seems to be our national pastime. It overcame baseball. Right now you get to do both. You drink and watch baseball. But there's more to it. And when you become completely obsessed with something and you realize, wow, I feel like this is why I'm here. At least this is part of why I'm here. Then all of a sudden you find yourself in flow. And that's where you lose track of time and space. And I can tell you from being there a number of different times, that's where it's at. And that's where I hope everybody can get to, is that state of flow where you're almost outside of yourself. It's just this beautiful state of experience and being truly present. That's the joy of finding your purpose, if you will.
Yeah. And people can call it many things. Some people call it praying. Some people call it meditation. Some people just call it journaling. Whatever you call it, people don't spend enough time there. People don't spend near enough time in silence. And I did a blog about 4 years ago, and I think I even did a podcast on it about what does silence feel like? What does true silence actually feel like? And it is the most uncomfortable thing someone can experience that doesn't often experience silence. And most of us only ever experience silence in our sleep. And that's great for our subconscious. It's really good for our subconscious. It revitalizes, it re-energizes us. It gets us prepared for the next day. But what if you did that silence consciously instead of subconsciously? That's when you really uncover a lot of things. And in our podcast journey, we've done a lot of shift. Our podcast has evolved through the time of doing active, go invest in this, think about your life here, think about this. We've gotten into a lot of the energy stuff, and you're in Sedona, you're in the energy mecca of the United States. So you probably are surrounded with people that are crazy crystal fanatics. So you understand this more than most, I'm sure. But when you can align your life with some type of spiritual, religious, something that's guiding you toward enlightenment. And enlightenment can be anything. It could be just discovering what you want to eat for dinner that night, or it could be discovering why you're here on earth. But that comes through hyper-focused, hyper-intentional, deep, concentrated energy into yourself. And that usually comes through silence. So I appreciate you sharing all of your thoughts and wisdoms today on our podcast. If our listeners want to learn anything more about you, other than the wealth of knowledge you explained here on the podcast, how can they get in touch with you? How can they learn more about what you're doing?
I think really starting off, understanding that there's some tools out there that you probably have never heard of. So going to EQRP.com, get a copy of my book. I'll give it to you. I'll send it out to you, FedEx it to you. And just start with the journey of learning, and you'll see, wow, I can do all sorts of really cool things that nobody told me I could do. And maybe it's FrameTech, maybe it's something else, but really empowering you. So this is meant for people that are self-responsible. If you feel like, yeah, I'm self-responsible, or I could be, then get a copy of the book and see if that's something that's a fit for you. And let's take you down that path, build you a map, the Millionaire Action Plan. So you really truly are free. Once you understand what that actually could look like, and that it's plausible and possible for you to get there over the next 5 or 10 years, we all know what it's like. 5 years goes by, and we're like, whoa, because you can think back 5 years. But if you say 20 years to somebody, they're like, literally, it's like a death sentence. It's okay, or a life sentence, like forever. So when we start realizing that if we take responsibility, that's the hack. That's compressing timeframes. If we start talking about 20 years, it just seems like forever, because 20 years, I'm in my mid 40s. 20 years ago, I was like, wow, that was my dumb years. Like truly, whoa, what? So it's really, that's the process. It's being around our community. It's like the secret weapon, and the guidance and clarity you get from each other. That's why it's so much fun, because we get to bring people together that are also self-responsible. And when you can surround yourself, then all of a sudden it's this really cool cult of self-responsible people. And then you look at everybody else like they're aliens. Wow, you're such a bunch of victims. We don't do victims. We don't like victims. We tend to repel the victims. And so I would encourage everybody, come check it out. Come visit EQRP and visit and see if there's something that fits you as a human being. And if there is, great, take advantage of all the tools and the possibilities there.
You know, Damion, with our powers combined, maybe we too can eliminate victim blaming and victimhood in America where it's undeserved. There are definitely victims out there, but too many of us call life the problem and we are the victim of life. And hopefully we can help shift that. It just takes a couple people with a unified thought pattern to help share that.
Agreed.
All right, Damion, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. Y'all, thank you for joining in and listening to Damion's story and what he has to offer the space out there. Please don't hesitate to go visit the website. Everything that was mentioned in today's podcast will be in the show notes. Damion, until next time, take care.
Thank you. You as well.
If you love what you heard today, it would mean the world to us if you would take a moment to rate, review, and share this podcast with someone that you believe would benefit too. Sharing is the best way for us to grow and to develop a community to join you on your intentional investing journey.
In the meantime, come hang out with us on social media at On Purpose Investor, or sign up for our next course, newsletter, or meetup at onpurposeinvestor.com. But most importantly, go out, live your life, and do it on purpose.